Show me the money.
It's the Employment Opportunity Hour with Gene Hodge every Thursday night from 7 until 8.
So the purpose of the show is to help you out there to find something that you enjoy doing instead of a job. And at the start of the show, I normally give out a formula, which I know will guarantee you to find the type of job that you want right now.
Find out the formula to an enjoyable job with Gene Hodges' Employment Opportunity Hour every Thursday night from 7 until 8 here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Show me the money.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
Hey listeners, this is Robert from Nostalgic Radio and Cars. We all love to eat. Well, I would like to tell you about my friends at the Rib Shack Barbecue on West Bay Drive in downtown Largo. Their menu offers family-sized takeout dinners like delicious ribs, chicken, beef, and pork, or sit-down barbecue dinners, sandwiches, and even desserts. They will also cater your party. Everything is barbecued fresh using real oak for that great smoky flavor. So visit my friend Corey at the Rib Shack Barbecue in downtown Largo, West Bay Drive, or call them for a takeout order at 727-501-9090. That's 727-501-9090. They truly have the best smoking barbecue in town. Oh, and be sure and check out their great barbecue sauce. That's the Rib Shack Barbecue in downtown Largo, 727-501-9090. I'm telling Robert from Nostalgic Radio and Cars sent you. You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
Okay, I'm gonna pull this rookie's chain. Cole, you're wandering all over the track.
Yeah, well, the son of a just slammed into me.
No, he didn't slam into you. He didn't bump you. He didn't nudge you. He rubbed you. And rubbing, son, is racing. There goes a fender. There goes a quarter pan. All right, well, we're still under a caution. I want you to go back out on that track and hit the pace car.
Hit the pace car?
Hit the pace car!
What for?
Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect. Come on, go, go, go! You're going too high, stay in the groove! Well, how about that? The sound we don't have to fix. I don't want you spoiled, brother.
This is gonna hurt.
Did you see that guy? I got a pin. I don't think so. We're busy now.
You're what?
We're eating ice cream.
Ice cream?
Now, you're welcome. Come on and get one, but I don't believe NASCAR would think much you're trying to eat an ice cream cone out there. You have enough trouble riding around the track as it is.
I come into the pits, I'm in first place. I go out, I'm in third with 2 laps to go.
All right, first of all, don't get excited. You're in third place. That's a pretty respectable position. Now, what you do is this. When they slow down in it for turn 4, just keep your foot on the gas and drive right by them on the outside.
Harry, you told me nobody goes to the outside on turn 4.
Well, now I'm telling you different. If you go to the outside, you can hold.
He's going to end up in the wall.
All right, Colt, the pace car's about ready to duck on off. We don't have a whole lot of time to talk about this.
Well, tell me how.
It's because we got a real good set of match tires on. What? What? Those tires are matched, perfect, and staggered spectrum. You're gonna get him killed. The pace car's about ready to duck on off. If you go to the outside, you can hold it.
All right, Harry, when it comes to the car, I take your word.
The white flag is out. 1 lap to go. Boy, don't have the balls to pass me on the outside. And they're heading into treacherous turn 4. Cole Trickle wins his first ever NASCAR victory. Second place goes to Rowdy Bird.
And now for all you music lovers, it's time for your traffic report. There's a 6... Oh! What is it, Scooby? Can't you see I'm broadcasting here? Pile up on the tri-level, got you backed up all the way to the off-ramp. So, if you're traveling this morning, try to give yourself an extra day or two, folks. Hang on, folks. I've just been handed this important bulletin. Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you this special report, like live as it happens.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. And if you're not, you're a communist.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TanTalk1340.com, and you can see us live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you miss any of our past shows, Google Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and you can go to our archive page. Good evening, Bobby. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Sound good in there.
Sound pretty good. Okay, well, we got our co-host sitting here with us since you're driving the studio.
Number one salesman in there. Yep.
Yeah, number one salesman. Scooby,
Do I drive a radio station?
Yes, you do, Bobby. At any rate, all right, a big shout out to Tommy. Now, we got a special guest for you this evening. Yes, we're continuing with Rocktober. So we got a musical guest calling in here in a little bit. In the meantime, what did we do this weekend? Well, I'll tell you what. That I appraise cars, do diminished value, total losses, and appraisals and stuff like that. And in a couple of weeks or so, I'll be heading back to Alabama to appraise another rare car, and I'll tell you about that when I get back. But in the meantime, over the weekend, I did another one. And oddly enough, there's a generational shift going on, right? Now, granted, I'm into the 60s, 50s, 60s, early 70s, muscle cars, hot rods, sports cars, things of that nature. But I got a call from a gentleman. That was a referral, and he was looking at a 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon. Now, what was interesting about this is, it's an Olds Cutlass, and it's a Salon, which is a two-door, kind of they're comparable to a Monte Carlo Landau version or something like that, and vinyl roof car, deluxe interior, things of that nature. Anyway, and a couple of weeks ago, we did a 78 Trans Am. So the 70s, late 70s, early 80s cars are now coming on to, they're kind of like in vogue, as he would say. And but here's what was unique about this car. The car was actually down looking in Gulfport. And the second owner was selling the car to a third owner, which is a gentleman that hired me to go out there and do a PPI, which is a pre-purchase inspection and an appraisal on the car. Now, I didn't know what to expect, being, a hot rodder, muscle car, high horsepower kind of junkie that I am. A Cutlass is a pretty docile car, and then back in the 70s, late 70s, like Pontiac Grand Prix, a Cutlass Salon, a Buick Century. What else was there? The Thunderbird, the Cougars. Those were kind of disco era cars. Okay, so let's call this a disco era car. But this car had 38,000 original miles, spent most of its life in Arizona. It was a rust-free car. It had a little bit of paint work, touch-up, tiny bit of bubbling around the vinyl top. But what was interesting is the second owner that was selling the car, I said, what kind of paperwork and documentation do you have? Because I always emphasize documentation, because that's important, or provenance of the cars. At any rate, so while I was sitting in the passenger seat, I opened up the glove box and there was a stack of papers in there. Unbeknown to the owner, was the original Monroney sticker, which is the window sticker that you see stuck on the side of the glass when you buy a car. The original checklist for the order list, checklist or order list, check order list, whatever, and I actually did that back in the day when I went to order a brand new car at one point in time. And that was really cool because you could spec out, whether you want a 273 rear end with 243 rear end, a 308 rear end, whether you want power windows, whether you want air conditioning, whether you want manual windows, whether you want deluxe, whether you want standard interior, all that kind of stuff. 2-barrel, 350, 4-barrel, 455, which I think you could not get, but I'm just using it as an example. So that was in there. The original bill of sale was in there. The original sales slip was in there, and the original finance agreement was in there. The one thing I was looking for, and I don't remember if they had them in 76 or not, but that was the protector plate, which is the warranty card, which you hear everybody talking about on an early car, specifically GMs, but Ford had them, Chrysler had them as well. That was a little card that looked like a credit card, and you swiped it every time you took your car in for warranty. It's a warranty card, basically. And I did not find that, but it had the original key fob, original set of keys, owner's manual, service manual, radio service manual, even maps that went back to Indiana days and Arizona days, which was pretty cool. So this car was extremely well, let's just say, documented in terms of paperwork. Now, that's one of the things that you really want to look for in a car. And it was a 2-owner car, now going to his 3rd owner. And so, and in excellent condition. I mean, 38,000 miles. I didn't believe it either, but the car was really, really, really looked at. The only thing it really needed was just a good detail. And, it had a set of older BF Goodrich radials on it, 255, 60-15s, which is kind of a big size tire for a 15-inch wheel. But overall, a really, really, really nice car. Spare tire was in the trunk. The sticker on the trunk, the spare tire decal sticker, that had fallen off, but it was off to the side. That was there. The original jack plate, jack handle, spare tire tie down, bumper jack, everything was in there. I mean, it was pretty complete car. And 354 barrel. So, it was nicely spec'd out. Reclining seats. He had manual windows. He spec'd it out. I saw the spec sheet. Spec'd it out with manual windows, but power door locks, AM/FM stereo, tilt and cruise. And that was, I think, 75, 76 was the first year they had the blinkers on the stock. Tilt column. And but reclining seats, reclining bucket seats on the driver's side and on the passenger side. That was very unusual. I mean, it was kind of standard deal in European cars, but very unusual for American cars back in the day. So I was overly impressed with that. So I'm working on the value of that car right now. I'm not exactly sure what they're worth, but they're all over the board. But they could be worth anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000. So hey, you learn something every day. On that note, I think Bobby's going to go. You're going to fire up something on that turntable right now?
Yeah, first I was just going to run through it real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
FLACarshows.com is the place to find all your car shows in Florida and beyond, all over the state. And Rib Shack Barbecue is the best place to get the best smoking barbecue. Rated Tampa Bay Newspaper's Reader's Choice 2 years in a row. And that's 727-501-9090 to place an order. And, of course, as always, thank our number one pillow salesman, Bill Cochran, for that My Pillow.
I got to tell you, I picked up one of those pillows here not too long ago, and, there's a lot of advertising, a lot of testimonials and stuff like that. But I will testimonial here. I will testify. I will tell you that I've actually used this My Pillow, and it actually works pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it. On that note,
promo code Bill.
Bobby's going to fire up something here real cool. We're going to play a little vintage, nostalgic. What do we got lined up here, Bobby?
We're going to crash and burn at the rest area.
Oh, yeah. Since we had Pat Travers on our radio show last week, here's a little tribute to Pat Travers, Crash and Burn, which right now I think I'm going to go dodge the office here for a second, and I'll be right back after I crash and burn. In the meantime, everybody stay tuned to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. We'll be right back. Enjoy the song.
Well, some see this life is nothing more than pain. It's day out this and I don't give. It's all just too insane. And I feel the blues are coming down like rain. My feelings are so complicated, I wish I could explain. Turn into words the way I feel. I know I really need someone, and I need something that's real.
Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLAcarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLAcarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLAcarshows.com.
Okay, we're back and you're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. And while we're preparing for our guest to call in here in a few minutes, he's up and over a couple states. That reminds me, the last time I went to Alabama, where was I? Oh, yeah, I was in Georgia. I was cutting through there, and I wasn't quite sure where I was because I wasn't paying attention to the map or my GPS or anything like that. But I met this guy. I'm trying to think what his name was, Kenny. And so while I was sitting there talking to him, I said, "Hey, Kenny, am I in Alabama yet?" He goes, "Boy, Alabama's out there and up north." Something to that effect, along the lines of that. But I had to laugh because he called me a boy. And,
Imagine doing a traffic report describing all the roads.
But anyway, he was pretty cool, good old Southern boy. And that was the guy that had that, you're driving by, 40 miles an hour. I saw it. I had to have 50, 60, whatever I was doing. Probably speeding, knowing me. But at any rate, and under this stack of brush, or whatever you want to call it, the weeds, whatever you want to call it, was a remnant of this hollowed out 73, 74 Barracuda. Now, I was able to, if you're like me and you're a car guy, you can tell by a silhouette, even a mile away, even if it's under a car cover. I have to laugh because every time I watch my good friend Steve Magnante do that thing on Barrett Jackson where they used to blindfold him and have him kind of walk around the car and kind of feel it, and kind of grab the fenders and the grill and the bumper and all that kind of stuff and the side marker lights and whatnot, and the hubcaps and wheels and hood scoop. And then he'd kind of like fondle around there for a while. And then he'd pretty much determine what car it was. Well, that's actually pretty easy. I could do that myself. Haven't been challenged yet, but I'm sure I could. But nonetheless, so as I was whisking by, I had to hit the binders and make a UE and come back and whip in there and check it out to, see what my eyes were seeing there, whether it was a real live Barracuda underneath the cover. And of course, there was an old Mercedes sitting in there and a couple old tractors and some other cool stuff. So it was kind of neat. And again, I look forward to these trips. So I'll be going up to Alabama here probably in the next couple of weeks or something like that to do another appraisal. And I don't stay on the interstate. I might stay on, I'll take 19, head up 27, cut through on the other side of I-10, maybe for a little bit, jump over to 27. Then I just kind of look randomly, if you've been driving for a while, I have a good sense of direction. So basically,
sees a bucket and it's all over.
I see a bucket, or I see a pallet, or I see a car part, or I see something laying alongside of the road. Guess what? It's going to wind up in the back. What did I pick up here recently? I don't remember. Oh, well, one time we were going to We were going across the bridge at Ellington on I-75, and just recently before that, I had a pintle hitch in the back of my truck, and I just had the regular clip in there, and somebody basically liberated it. So strangely, but mine was an American-made one. Strangely enough, here we are going across the Ellington Bridge, and what's laying in the middle of the road on the right-hand side of the road, blocking the lane, basically, was a complete pintle hitch receiver. So naturally, we flipped the beacons on because we were in the rollback, and we stopped, and I ran back there real quick, and I got through that on my truck, and I still have it. So, hey, you win some, you lose some, So, but in that case, I lost one and won one. So I'm up. I'm even up, although that was made in China. This one's made in China. It's not as good, obviously, but for light duty work, we'll trust it. We'll take a chance. But anyway, so what I typically try to do is I try to take these side roads because you just never know. And I don't really, I budget my time, but I always allow myself enough time that if I get sidetracked, distracted, or derailed, if something interesting pops up as along the side of the road, I naturally have to stop because I'm curious. Now, the one thing I haven't done in a long time, and I used to do this in Florida, we used to go out and about in the middle of the state, but unfortunately, a lot of the barn finds that we find around here really weren't that cool. But in the 70s, I used to find some pretty cool stuff, particularly when I would go up towards Brooksville and out there in Citrus and Hernando County. And it just seemed like the people were a little bit friendlier, but you would actually find some really cool stuff. And one time in particular, I remember I was rooting around in some guy's field, and there was some old junk car out there. And then the lady came out, and she was on some little quad like a little golf cart type thing. And she says, can I help you guys? And I said, well, we saw this old car here, and we were actually standing on the fence. We didn't trespass. And we said, we'd like to go take a look at that old car that's sitting out there. And she said, sure. And she says, while you're at it, I got another car in the barn. And so we went in the barn, and I'm seriously, here it was, literally under the hay bales was a Series 1 or Series 2. I'm not sure what year it was exactly, but it was a Lotus Elan sports car. It was yellow. And again, it may have been the same old story, it belonged to my son. He left, never came back. The car's still there, but for whatever reason, the car was there. So we started pulling all the hay out of it, took everything out of the interior, and we were sitting and we had it all cleaned away. But now I'm like 16 years old. I'm into high rods and muscle cars, even though my first car was an Austin Healey. I didn't really have a big interest in the car, so I didn't really follow up. But she did say she was interested in selling the car. And at the time, it was like really cheap. It was like, well, what do you think the car's worth? And I said, I have really no idea. I'm not that familiar with it. I was a kid, so I didn't really probably say anything too intelligent or too stupid either. But nonetheless, the car probably could have been had for a few $100. It'd been sitting there for a long time, had run. And it was, and Lotus Elan is a fiberglass car with a tube chassis. And, because, and Lotus has racing heritage, it was a cool piece. And I just remember the car from the TV show, The Avengers. And I really, truly thought those cars were kind of cool. A little 4-cylinder twin cam, overhead cam engine, I think, if I remember correctly. 2 SU carburetors. Of course, if I'm wrong, I'm sure Alan will call in and correct me because he's tuning in as usual. And he's the local automotive, should we call him a historian or a dictionary? One of the two. Either or. But he's
depends what you need.
Yeah, he's well read, as he puts it, and I'm well pictured, which means I looked at a lot of the pictures and I read the captions below. But I saw a lot of these cars.
I can't read much.
I can't read much. No. But anyway, but that was kind of a cool car. So that's the thing about going out there and traveling. I mean, you just never know. Here's the other thing too, is I don't know about you guys, but I go to Bring a Trailer a lot. And one of these days when we get all caught up here, we're going to get Randy Nunemaker on the show. And he's one of the founding members or founders of the of Bring a Trailer BAT. And which started out just kind of like with, I'm going to say editorials. And then they would, pedal a car on there once or twice here and there. And then suddenly it turned into this giant auction site. But the thing about it is it's really catered, unlike any other auction site, aside from, let's say, Gooding Auctions, RM Auctions, Bonham's Auctions, Barrett Jackson or Russo and Steele or anybody like that, this is really not an auction that's like extravagant and a brick and mortar type. This is just basically an online auction, but it really caters to true, serious car enthusiasts. And in this particular case, Jay Leno has been known to have acquired 2 cars off of there. One I know was a Falcon, 64 Falcon. That was really tricked out, nice piece. Not too over the top, had a modified 302 in it and a 5-speed and a 9-inch and some Willwood brakes and some trick pieces like that. But there's some amazing stuff on it. There's some wild extreme cars on there. A lot of Porsches, a lot of Jaguars, occasionally some Ferraris, huge Porsche deal though, a lot of Porsche stuff on there. A lot of muscle cars, a lot of Mustangs, a lot of Camaros, Resto mods, vintage race cars. There's a 70 Boss 302 on there right now, which the last time I looked at it, I think it had 4 or 5 hours to go, and it was at $35,000. You couldn't build that car for $35,000. I don't know what it's sold for. That's the other thing about Bring a Trailer. I actually use Bring a Trailer as a reference when I'm doing appraisals. Because when I do these appraisals on some unusual cars, I can Google Bring a Trailer, type in, specific year, make, and model, and completed sales pops up. I use eBay for completed sales. I use Sports Car Market a lot for completed sales. I use Meekums for completed sales. I use Barrett Jackson for completed sales. I use Russo and Steele. I use all the auction sites because once it's sold, now keep in mind, when you're doing appraisals on cars, a lot of people don't really know what they're comparing, apples to apples and apples to oranges and stuff. So you really have to know the cars. When they sit there and say condition, condition 2, condition 3, condition 1, a condition 1 car is almost a perfect car that doesn't even get driven. It's pretty much a trailer queen, a showpiece. Whereas a condition 3 car is a car that's been driven all the time. How are we doing on time there, bub?
Hey, we're about bottom of the hour here, 7:30. So
okay, so wow. At any rate, I think what we need to do is we need to kind of maybe fire up the stereo here.
Listen.
let's go to our second song, and then hopefully between now and then our guest will call in, and then we'll have something really cool to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
All right. Thank
Do
you.
it.
Bye.
There's a road that runs before me. It's twisted and it turns. With miles of open highway, bridges that would burn. Route and reputation, learning lessons of the heart. A recent revelation, found a place to start. Dixie Highway, can you hear me? Sometimes we ride alone. Dixie Highway, can you steer me? Oh, I'm on my way back home. I'm out here on my own. Dixie Highway. The lines, they are relentless. Every bozo's got a pitch. But how it's gonna change your life, how to make you rich. The road is unforgiving, but we're on it till the end. 'Cause we believe that our salvation is just around the bend. Dixie Highway, can you hear me? Sometimes we ride alone. Dixie Highway, can you steer me? I'm on my way back home.
Your young friend can use some help. This is it. $1 a bottle. It works wonders on wounds.
It's wonders on just about everything, huh?
It can do most anything.
How's it with stains?
Do you really think you can shoot all those men down before they shoot you? Oh, no, Mr. Josie Wales. There is such a thing in this country called justice.
Well, Mr. Carpetbagger, we got something in this territory called the Missouri Boat Ride.
God Almighty!
Hi, this is Tom Johnson of the Doobie Brothers, and you are rocking with Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, we're back. And while we're waiting for our guest to call in here, I'll just continue with my stories of
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Barn finds. Let's see, what other barn find have I found here? I had to go look at a car one time, and it was a 36 Chevy sedan of some kind, if I remember correctly. You know, so basically like a 40 Ford sedan, which is really a good-looking car, and that was not a bad-looking car. But this is a 30, which is real popular. 39 and 40 Fords are really, really good-looking cars. And I actually like the 39 because I like the teardrop headlights a little bit better on a 39 than I do on a 40. And but this was the 36, and it was kind of, I'm not sure if bustle back's the right term, but it's basically kind of like a kind of squared off back end on it a little bit. But in the garage, under car cover, was this Studebaker. And the Studebaker was I'm going to say early, well, if you remember the movie, The Muppets, the first one, Kermit was driving this, I'm going to say like 49, 50, 51, somewhere around in there, Studebaker. That's the one that's got looks like it's got a third eye in the center. And so anyway, this guy had this Studebaker under the cover. I could tell by the silhouette what it was. I'm not real sure. It's kind of like a 49, 50, 51 Ford. They all pretty much look alike. A lot of guys refer to them affectionately as a shoebox. And so this car was so basically there's subtle difference between, and same thing with a Merc, 49, 50, 51 Merc. They pretty much all look the same. 3 years they made the body stuff, but there's subtle differences in them. Anyway, so this is the same thing with the Studebakers, 49, 50, 51. And if I remember it correctly, of course, if you're listening and you know more than I do, feel free to call in and give us a holler. But at any rate, so I looked at the car and it was really, just an average paint job, an average interior. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't over the top. And in fact, the colors probably didn't really complement the car because it was kind of not a pale yellow. It was a little bit more of a louder yellow. And the interior was yellow with, I think, green accents, but kind of like an avocado green and yellow. Now, back in the day, I guess that was kind of a okay color combination. It kind of matched, I guess. And then the wheels and tires on it looked pretty normal. And then, so what he did is before he opened the hood, he went in there and he wanted me to listen to the car. So he started the car up, and he sat in there and just gave it a couple squishes on the go fast pedal, and it fired right up. And I thought, wow, pretty nice sounding car. Had a nice set of mufflers on it. It was mellow. It wasn't like, Flowmasters or anything like that, or any kind of glass backs. It was just dual exhaust coming out of, let's say, like Corvair turbo mufflers or something like that. So after the car's running for a while, he gets out of the car, shuts it off. He shuts it off, then he gets out of the car. And usually in that order, right, Bobby? And so at any rate,
I've seen you do all the coming any order.
Any order, yeah. Well, it depends on where I'm at and whether I'm broke down or not, whether I'm getting ready to push it. But anyway, he popped the hood, and lo and behold, there was a 392 Hemi sitting under the hood with a pair of quads on it. And I thought, wow, that was really, really cool. It was a very, very clean, nice, neat installation. Now, the guy had a couple other street rods and stuff, and they were kind of, so-so. I mean, I really wasn't excited about the tire and wheel package on it and the colors and, some of the stuff that the guy had done on it. But the Studebaker was very simple, very tastefully done in terms of the overall conversion. Okay. And I don't know what it had for a rear end under it. It looked like it had a, typical either a big Oldsmobile or a Ford, or, it was a solid rear end, but it was a pig type rear end. So I don't know if that was correct for a Studebaker or not, but I do know that the motor and transmission were out of a Chrysler, and they were in there, and whoever did it, did a very, very nice job. And so, that's that again, it's kind of like when you're praising the car, you look at the quality of the modifications. If the modifications are really, really nicely and tastefully done and fit and finish, that's important. I mean, you can hack stuff. I mean, you're familiar with the term rat rod or hot rod, or, I mean, a hot rod in its truest sense is stuff put together because the guy that built an original hot rod didn't have a lot of money, and he was just putting a big motor in a little car and trying to make the car as light as possible so he could go as fast as possible, and usually in a straight line. And sports car guys were the same thing. They did the same. They took. I mean, you would be amazed at how many. In fact, you'll see them on Bring a Trailer every once in a while. You'd be amazed at how many cars, sports cars, out of the day were. And there was one I was just reading recently when it came up for sale, and it was an old Mercedes 300 SL Roadster. And keep in mind, back when that car was 7 or 8 years old, it was just another old German convertible. You know, it wasn't anything special. And some guy found that car. It might have been abandoned. You never know. Usually the guy that bought the car originally had some money because that was a $10,000, $11,000 car back in the day. But sometime in the early to mid 60s, you know, that car was just another car. And, you know, and back in the 60s, 50s and 60s, keep in mind, every year they came out with a new body, a new car, a new style. Something was changed. So a 64 looked like was different than a 65, which was different than a 66, which was different than a 67, and so on, you know? So, I mean, and then people got rid of the cars always so they could get the newer car, where today, you know, you can't tell from a 2000 from a 2006. We have, Bobby just came in, we have our special guest for the evening. I'm delighted to welcome to Nostalgic Radio and Cars, the legendary founding member of Black Hawk, the Henry Paul Band, and one of the original members and recording artists with a local band here called The Outlaws. I'm delighted to welcome to the show this evening, Henry Paul. Henry, how are you?
Robert, well, I'm a day late and $1 short, but here I is.
You is, and welcome to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. And I'll tell you what, I'm delighted to have you on the show. And why don't you just give us a little brief background on yourself and tell some of our listeners, you know, how The Outlaws came to be.
Right. Well, I graduated from King High in 67. And that's the money year for the Corvette. And the Chevelle, I just want to say, and the Camaro for that matter. The Mustang as well. So 67 was a big year for classic cars. Number two, the band started in the bars in North Tampa. We kind of slugged it out for 2-3 years, caught a break in 74. Were discovered sort of by Ronnie Van Zant. We opened a show for Skinner in Nashville. He called his manager. His manager signed us to a management deal and a publishing deal. And he had a lot of juice back then, a lot of power, and got us signed to, helped us get us signed to Arista Records. And our first record, Clive went out and killed for it. We had Green Grass and High Tides on it. And the rest is rock history, as they say.
Okay. You were talking about cars there for a second. Are you a car guy too? Because you're talking about the Mustang and the Camaro.
Major American car guy. You know, I dabble. I don't have a collection, but what I do is I buy a car and I renovate it. I keep it and sell it, and then I start over. It started back in probably the middle 70s. I bought a 53 Chevrolet from one of my best friends, his mom's car, and I had it painted and I kind of cleaned it up. And, you know, 53 Chevys are kind of big and fat and square and very Eisenhower looking, you know, they're very kind of blocky and old fashioned looking. And then my second car, I sold that, and my second car was a 57 Bel Air Sport Coupe, which I had it set up to race, and it was turquoise with a white top. I kept that for a few years. I bought a 65 Stingray. I kept that for a few years. I met a young girl. She moved down. I sold that and got her a car. And then I bought a 53 Chevrolet pickup and renovated that and got it just gorgeous, like marine blue and just perfect. And kept that for a few years and sold it. And I've got a 94 red Stingray ragtop that I've had for a few years, and I bought it at the low ebb of its money value, but you know, it's in mint condition, and I'm going to keep it for a few more years and probably turn it. I'll probably go back and buy another Bel Air 57.
Sounds like you're a Chevy guy.
Well, I mean, those are the money cars.
Okay.
Ford's got a couple of them, not very many, but mostly the Mustang. You know, mostly the Mustang GT stuff and the Cobra stuff is money. But yeah, Ford, all those Victorias and stuff in the 50s, yeah, no. No.
All right. Well, let's talk about music. Well, wait a minute. While we're talking about cars, how about we jump over to guitars? So, what kind of guitars were you into back in the day? I know you played a lot of acoustic, but occasionally I see you out there with an electric. So, what's your fancy?
Well, sure. No, I mean, in the Outlaws, you have to have an electric guitar. I started out with what was that I first bought? In the band before the Outlaws, Sienna, I had a Starfire. It was made by, God, I'll think of the name, but it was a really nice kind of 335 Gibson knockoff.
Uh-huh.
And then in the Outlaws, I started out, I played a Gretsch Tennessean. Then I bought a Les Paul, like a mid-70s standard. I kept that for a few years, and I went to a 330, a white custom 330, which looks like a 335, but it's got the P90s mounted on the top of the body. And that was like the best guitar. And then I got I was given a red 335 by Pat Simmons at Madison Square Garden on Halloween in 1976, which I brought home and refinished white because I was a big Richie Furay from Poco fan and I wanted a white guitar like him. And then I played that for a few years and I still have that one.
Good.
I had a 62 model 335 and I broke the headstock off that and thought it devalued it to the point where I shouldn't keep it, and I sold it, which I should have never done. But now I play Gretches. I play White Falcons, with the humbuckers, and they're really nice for rhythm guitar. They're clean, but they have a little bite. And it has its own sound. Steve Grisham plays a Strat, and Dale Oliver plays a Gibson Firebird. Now he's back to a Les Paul, so I'm kind of in the middle. And then with the Blackhawk thing, I play Gibson J200s, the big ones. I got a black and red one, and then I have a Gibson F model mandolin, a black one that I play. So not unlike Chevy, I'm a Gibson guy and a Gretsch guy.
Well, let me ask you this. When you bought your guitars back in the day, and let's just use Gibson as an example, did you go to Kalamazoo and pick one out, or did you just go in the store and just buy one?
No, I just go in a store and buy one. I went to the plant in Kalamazoo in the mid-'70s while I was in the Outlaws, while they were still very much in business. The whole vintage guitar thing was yet to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't, or at least for me, we didn't think about guitars from the standpoint of intrinsic value. We just played what we played, bought what we bought, kind of had what we had. That 330 I mentioned was gorgeous, and I would die to have it back. But that's kind of the only guitar I ever turned loose of that I really regretted. I have, a collection of guitars now, mostly acoustics, and it's a modest collection, but I mean, there's more guitars than 10 people can play at the same time. So,
okay. Well, now
I don't know what I do with them.
You're in Nashville now, and I know I was out there in Nashville a couple years ago with my son. We went to NAMM, and obviously, I'm not a very good guitarist. I stay like below the first 7 frets and open chords, and I'm okay. Maybe a few bar chords and a couple licks and stuff. But my son and I went to Gruen's, and then we went to Carter's. I mean, do you ever stroll into their guitar shop and see what they got going on?
Yeah, I did, especially early on. Even when the Outlaws in the mid-'70s were touring and we came to Nashville, we'd always go to, Gruen's and look at stuff. But, all that stuff is retail plus, and if you have deep pockets and that's what you want to spend it on, I mean, you can find a lot of really nice guitars there. Carter's came a little later. I'm not too familiar with them, but I don't go there anymore. I'm kind of at the point where I have what I have and I like what I like, and I'm not searching and looking to buy anything in particular. I'm good with what I got.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about music. This is just my observation, but correct me if I'm wrong. When you were with the Outlaws, people, and we've had Ricky Medlock's been on our show. I've talked to a couple other Southern rock guys. We knew the guys from Molly Hatchet real well. We use the term Southern rock, but it's really not Southern rock. It's just kind of like rock and roll music with a little bit of a Southern flair, I guess you could call it. But when you were with Black Hawk seemed to me that it was unlike the Outlaws and Henry Paul. Black Hawk was more country. And was that intended to go with a little bit more within a country flavor? I mean, more like a Nashville country song type music?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I moved to Nashville, it was to get into the country music business specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't, messing around. We were on a major label. Country music is a hit driven format. And if you don't have hit records in country music, I mean, you're just gone. So, we were definitely invested in that as the format. And we wrote and recorded music that is left of center and a little bit different than the mainstream, but still and for all, we had a string of hits that were, top 5s, top 10s, number 1s. We were definitely, nominated for CMA year after year. We were definitely in the mainstream of hit-driven country music. We weren't, Southern rock or any of that at that time. I declared my intentions to be a country music artist, and that's what it was.
Now here it is, all these years later, and the Outlaws is still going. You had an album out in 2012 that was called "It's About Pride," which is actually a great song, by the way. And then 2020, right. Dixie Highway, which is another one. I think we just played part of that on the song, but while we were waiting for you, that song, which is another great song. And you're still out there touring, and the legacy lives. You live on. The music's great, and what's like your big inspiration? Is it just something that says, look, as long as I'm here, I can do this. I'm going to do this, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I want my goal for the Outlaws was to write and record new music that was relevant to the band's original personality, number one, and two, contemporary in a sense that it, reflected the first 3 records that I was part of in that band. That said, the songwriting is still at a very high level. Dixie Highway is a really well-written record and a really well-played record. And so, my goal is to perpetuate the brand's musical personality through new music and put a show on vocally and instrumentally that sits soundly in the center of the band's style. We're very true to the band's original style vocally and musically, and I want to continue to do good work that way and perpetuate the brand into what is 2020, which is a sort of lost year. And I mean, we're going to be at this for another, at least 5 more years, as far as I can tell. I mean, we're going to be doing this for a while, and we've got another album coming, and we've got another live record coming, and we've got a soundtrack record that we're working on, and I mean, we want to continue to push the brand up the road from the standpoint of musical contribution.
Do you like touring? Is touring, I mean, as you get a little bit older, it's a little bit, we're not spring chickens anymore. And do you still like getting out on the road, touring a lot in front of large fans? And do you, how many tours a year are open venues do you like doing that you guys are real comfortable with, as opposed to the old days?
We're invited to go and play, whether it's Black Hawk or the Outlaws, and even the Henry Paul Band does a few shows. But the simple answer is yes, I really enjoy it. I mean, if you go out and play an Outlaws show and and the core audience that loves your band, that grew up loving the band and are so happy that the band is still alive and well and doing something significant, you know, the smiles on their faces is a reward. And it may sound cliche, but it's really true of that, and in the course of a 2-hour show and you know, on any given night, it's always very rewarding to, you know, meet with people after the show and sign them whatever and talk to them briefly and get, you know, their appreciative, you know, comments. And all of that still drives the, you know, the touring end of it for me. It's a way to make a living, you know, by doing something that you're pretty good at and that you really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy the camaraderie of the band and the crew on the bus. I enjoy going to different towns. I love being home. I love being on the bus. I love coming home. You know, I love leaving to go out. You know, we get to go literally everywhere there is to go. I mean, Europe and Canada and all around the United States, and it's just fun. And both Black Hawk and the Outlaws, you know, are still very, what's the word? They're very, they generate a significant income, you know, between the two bands in the course of the year. I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that the guys in the band and the crew are making, you know, a really good living compared, you know, it's all relative, but I mean, the guys are doing good, and we've worked hard to rebuild the brand, and we've managed to get it back to a very high level. Our audience is awesome. I mean, they're really a great group of people, and the band is, and we're, you know, the show is very professional, and you know, we bust our ass and put a good face on both of those musical brands.
Well, Henry, we unfortunately we're up against the clock, but we would love to have you back again sometimes, because I had a whole litany of questions I wanted to ask you. But nonetheless, we got about 30 seconds left. If people want to find out more about you and your touring dates and stuff, how do they go about doing that, Henry?
Well, there's henrypaul.com, there's blackhawklive.com, and then there's outlawsmusic.com. I'm on Facebook. My son, my wife, our farm, we live out in the country in Tennessee, and it's all pretty transparent. I mean, just come and say hello.
Okay.
It really is. I mean, it's pretty low tech, and let's put it this way: the fence isn't that high.
Well, I'll tell you what. The next time they have NAMM in Nashville, I'll definitely give you a shout, and maybe we can get together and you can show me a few licks. And but
yeah, man, it'd be great to see you. And I apologize for being late tonight. I swear I had it on my radar screen, and I was making chicken and dumplings for dinner for my family, and I was just about ready to launch into my dumpling recipe, and I looked at my watch, and I had my ringer off, and Darren was beating me over the head on the phone, like, "Wake up, you dingbat, call your friend." And so I apologize for being late.
No worries. I thank you very much for coming on the show this evening. I want to thank Henry Paul from the Outlaws, the Henry Paul Band, and Black Hawk. Henry, we'll definitely have you on again sometime. In the meantime, best of luck to you. Hopefully I see you in Nashville sometime. In the meantime, I want to thank all my listeners for tuning into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Don't forget, every Tuesday night here on the Tan Talk Radio Network for the most fascinating and legendary names in motorsport and music. Henry, thank you very much.
All right, Robert. Have a good night, man.
Thank you. And, hey, don't forget to tell your friends about us every Tuesday night here, and we'll see you at some of the car shows. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyr Hills.
FM 104.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting. I'm Matt Piper in New York. The United States is now averaging more than 69,000 new coronavirus cases a day nationwide. CBS's Michael George says Milwaukee is getting hit especially hard.
As cases surge in the city, officials are putting new restrictions on gatherings at bars and restaurants. Wisconsin is one of the states with the highest number of new daily cases.
It's never been worse for us here in Wisconsin, and every day it's not getting better. It's getting a little bit worse.
In Illinois, the 7-day average for new cases topped 4,500 for the first time since the pandemic began, sparking new restrictions in more than half the state.